beautiful, but this is going on all the time. And as you walk through the forest, we had to go up, down, because it wasn't a nice straight road, it was through the mountains. Yeah, wonderful. Now, it was hot. Quite hot. Very high humidity, and you were just sweating. So what do we do? Well, as we were going along, occasionally we come to a stream. Straight in, flat out in the water. Cooling down. Great. One big drawback. When you got out, you were covered in leeches. Now, leeches are a bit like slugs, but not as big as slugs. And they're black. And you can, when they bite, hang on to you, you just pull them out, and you can see their little pumping the blood out, which is interesting. But can you take them off? Well, no, you don't pull them off because you leave the head behind and it becomes infected. You could use a cigarette, didn't smoke. You could use salt, didn't have any salt. But the boys all said, don't bother. They're not going to drink much blood, and when they've had enough, they'll fall off. So we were walking along with blood all running down our legs, you know. Strange. So leeches were just a minor part of it. We got up to the top of this particular hill, and there was a thing called a garden hut, or garden house. It was a house used by the hunters to stay overnight, and it was also used by people who were tending the gardens, because they used to grow a fair bit of crops up there. So we stopped, got a little fire going, brewed up our tea as per usual, and then what happened? Great noise as these hunters arrived. Now these guys were real hunters. Bows, arrows, spears, no firearms. Bones through their nose, and didn't speak English, only pidgin English, and my pidgin was pretty poor, so the boys had to translate for me. Now, weird, this was 1969, July. We'd just landed on the moon. And the boys were telling these hunters all about Neil Armstrong, lunar modules, and the fact that they'd gone and were on the moon walking. And these guys, never seen a motor car in their lives, accepted that people were up there. Because they'd actually seen aircraft fly over, so they knew that there were ways of flying, so why not go to the moon? Then we got on to something else. Cannibalism. Now, cannibals are supposed to not exist anymore in New Guinea. Total rubbish, because when I was there, a whole village went down with Jakob-Creutzfeldt disease, which you could only get from eating diseased brains. So they obviously did eat people. The guys that we were with, fantastic story. They were talking about the fact that eating missionaries wasn't as good as it was cracked up to be, because when you eat somebody, you're eating them like if they've got really good, strong arms for firing arrows, you'd eat their arms. Well, these missionaries, the first lot they got, fantastic feet. I mean, they had to be careful how they walked on the rock. These missionaries stomped about all over the place, never got cut. Chopped the feet off, put them in the pot, cooked them for 4 days. No, it was boots. They had not understood about boots, because everything they have they make or grow. They don't sort of manufacture anything. So yeah, they realised that. And finally, the last thing they said about missionaries, you know, they really screwed our lives up, because we always have pigs as our wealth, as our brothers and sisters, and they live with us. And sometimes the women even breastfeed them when they're ill, but that's their wealth. It's just so important. And you never ever would dream of eating your own brother or sister. Never. You give them away at a feast or a sing-sing. So what happens? Good old Christian missionaries turn out and say, "Oh, you can't do that. You know, it's all well and good you eating people that you're enemies, but you can't do it. But you can eat your pigs. You know, that's perfectly all right. You must eat your pigs, not people." caused quite a few problems because they couldn't understand why they couldn't eat their enemies. I mean, what are you going to do? Bury them or let other animals eat them? Why can't we eat them? No, you've got to be a proper civilised human being and not eat each other. Not allowed. So we went further on the next day and we were sitting around the fire as usual. Tea. But the only thing you could take with you, because coffee was rubbish, but the tea was okay, it was grown locally. I'm having a cup of tea and there's this great crashing noise. Now, there's only one thing that can make that kind of noise. It's a cassowary. Now a cassowary is like a large emu with these amazing spurs that could rip you completely open or kick you and kill you. So don't mess with cassowaries. Then this noise got louder and louder and we were sort of thinking, okay, stay still, do not move, it might not see you. And then out of the bush came a patrol officer who looked. And I said, want a cup of tea? And he said, not only am I hearing things, I'm seeing them as well now. So we talked to him a bit and he was on his circuit. And he couldn't believe that there was an Englishman with a couple of boys sat having a cup of tea. In the middle of nowhere, this was. So we left him and he said to us, drop in my station on the way back because you're not going to be very far from it. And we'll have a few drams or two. And so that's what he did. Off he went. And that basically was probably one of the most exciting adventures I've ever had. Ever since then, people shooting at me, etc., not so much of a problem as this one was. It was just so much fun. And maybe another time I'll tell you some of my other adventures.